Hello and welcome back to the floor of my partner's office. My normal spot, I will show you now, is more of an explosion than an actual room, and that is only because my partner is away for a little while and I'm trying to surprise him by painting the house. You ever do that? You ever drastically change your living area for a surprise? Truth is, we've been talking about painting the cabinets for a little while, and when we replaced the radiators, there were a lot of spots that were not painted. I'll show you one. Yeah, that radiator is a little smaller than the last one, so now the paint doesn't fit. So as a surprise to him, I am touching up all of the paint mishaps that are in our house and repainting the cabinets as we planned. So if everybody could comment just how good of a girlfriend I am, that would be awesome. Also, here's my outfit. I got this skirt in New York in like 2012, 2011 maybe, and I still have it.
And my grandmother.
So also, I'm gonna high five myself for not creating clothing waste. Look at me go. Anyway, now that we've discussed how great I am, let's hop into the video. This is not a history-based video. This is just my own little creation, and I wanted to walk through how I did it. So half of my online presence, probably around 3/4 of my online presence, is Irish history, and mostly Irish history. So Irish history, Irish diaspora, the countries that Ireland has touched and have touched Ireland in the heaviest of ways. And then the other side of it is crochet and textiles and knitting. And I do commissions and I have an Etsy store. So my goal with this channel is to wear most of the clothing that I make and to make most of the clothing that I wear and be kind of like a walking advertisement for my own Etsy store. While we're doing that, I'm going to be working on, I'll insert a picture here of the clip that I made, and I'm just going to be making a few more of those for my Etsy store. I'm halfway through this one. I just think they're so cute. They're made of like tweed and like an all natural wool. So they're all natural, they're handmade. Go ahead and buy them, and they're pumpkin patch themed. While we're doing that, I have a nice hot beverage. It's hot chocolate. So these pants were a commission by a friend of mine that I have known since I was a kid. Now, what's funny about this friend is that in my past life, she and I were in the same bagpipe band. Take from that what you will. I also took African drumming as a kid, so really just any culture that wasn't my very own, I'll dabble in it. Sure, why not? But she and I played in the same bagpipe band, and I always thought that because she was an adult and I was a child, that she would be more of my dad's peer or my mom's peer because my dad was in the bagpipe band than my own, but thinking about it, she's closer to my age than my parents' age, so we're on the internet together now. Her style is kind of like a rockabilly, vintage, alternative, and she sent me this message that was like, can you make these? This was the picture that she sent over to me, and I immediately recognized it as just a skull granny square. So granny squares are a pretty simple crochet staple that all crocheters would know kind of how to do. It's kind of one of the first things you learn, and you can adapt it to how you would like it to look based on really anything. I've seen sunflower granny squares, sun, moon granny squares. I've seen, face granny squares. I've seen people do the Greek eye, and I have to look that up and put that on the screen. They're really quite adaptable. It's really interesting. And I'm kind of wondering where the history of it lies now. I assume it was just something that people figured out during the golden age of making your own shit, pre-industrial revolution, But the granny square is a very adaptable, easy thing to make your own. And this is also the building block for a lot of really trendy knitwear and crochet wear right now. A lot of people are wearing kind of oversized granny square jumpers or granny square skirts, dresses. And so when you see this kind of typical crocheted look of multiple squares sewed together, that's what it's called. It's called a granny square. And so when I saw this message and I saw that it was just a skull in a granny square, I said, yeah, I could totally make that. I just have to figure out how to make the skull part. So I Googled it and I checked out the account and I did some internet digging, as you do. And I found that it was from an account called Cutie Crochet, and I'll link her down below. I'll put her picture up here. La la la, here she is. Oh my God. But she didn't sell the granny square pattern. She only sold the skull pattern. So the little white piece in the middle that is just the skull. So I said, you know what? That's the hard part anyway. I'll get the skull pattern and then I'll figure out what to do with the rest, because that is just a typical granny square. I just have to kind of suss out where the best places to start them and put them are. So I did. So I started off with the skull pattern. I'm not going to do a demonstration like I will for the black part of the square with the skull. So I'm not going to tell you how I made the skull or give you a video of me making the skull, because that is a cutie crochet pattern. And if you want to learn that, you're going to have to buy it from her, just like I did. I apologize, but I'm not going to take another creator's content or patterns and purchasable items and hand them out for free. That's what we're not going to do today. So I made the skull, and then I had to suss out kind of where the black pieces or the actual granny square was going to be, which was kind of the tough part. I would try one way and it didn't work, try another way, it didn't work because it kept bubbling up. And then I kind of finally found something that would definitely work. And of course, with blocking, which is another integral part of the crochet method, it would essentially lie flat. I figured with the blocking, it'll be fine. So I'll insert that here. And now this is the how-to on how I made the granny square part of the skull itself. Go on editing, Hannah, you got this.
Okay, so what I like to do is I like to slip my hook right into the top left corner and crochet over my excess yarn. Not a lot of people like to do this, they like to weave it in after, but I like to crochet on top. So to start off, I chained 3, and then that can be matched with a double crochet into the very same hole. I only started off with 2 double crochets in the original row of the square, and then you chain 2, and you make the second pillar of that corner piece. So that's going to be a corner piece in the upper left-hand corner. You double crochet into the next hook. It just helps spread it out a little bit, so this way you don't have to rely totally on the blocking to make sure that it lies flat. Again, and then another 2 double crochets into that next hole that you see there. A lot of this is going to be kind of finicky, and it's not going to be exactly the same for yours versus mine. The next one is going to be in the very first hole of the eye socket. So that first stitch that comes out on the side, you're going to loop it in there with a single crochet. Not a double one this time, but a single. From there, you're going to put 2 more stitches into the 2 following stitches, so 2 single crochets into the next, leaving you with 3 single crochets. Those are going to act as another little pillar, so that's going to be a side. I then chained 1 again, so between every single pillar in the original row, I chain 1, and then I'm going to make another corner bit. So that's going to be in the second to last stitch in the skull on the bottom left-hand side. Again, 2 double crochets into that same hole. It just helps spread it out a little bit and lay it flat. There you go, and then 2 more chains. And then I'm going to double crochet into the bottom left corner. Again, it's going to spread it out just a little bit more, and you're not even going to be able to tell the difference once the square is done. So once that's done, you've got your 2 single crochet pillars into the corner piece. That's going to make another corner. Again, I like to crochet over my tails. You don't have to do this. I chain 1, and then I go. It's not going to be directly in the middle of the teeth of the skull because it got an even number of teeth, but you can go ahead and crochet 3 into what you feel is going to be the most central part of the skull teeth. Excuse me while I move this yarn out of the way. Jiminy Cricket. And that again is going to act like another pillar, those 3 stitches there. Once you're done with that, you're going to again chain 1. It's coming together now, kind of looking like the square. Chain 1, and then the bottom left-hand corner, the exact bottom left or right-hand corner, apologies, is going to be what you insert your hook into next. That's going to give you the corner piece on the bottom, and then you're going to do 2 double crochets into that bottom corner. Chain 2, and double crochet into the next stitch up, kind of along the side of the skull and no longer on the bottom. So this way, again, it just lays a little bit flatter. Now we're coming up to the other side, so what we're going to do is we're going to chain 1, and we're going to count backwards from the first hook or the first stitch in the eye socket. So 1, 2, 3, and we're going to start at the 3rd one. So this way we are on the same exact side of the eye socket on this side as we were on the other side, putting 3 single crochets into that stitch. So you can see there it's kind of parallel, and one side is equal to the other. Chain 1, and you're going to do the same thing on the right hand side of the skull that you did on the left hand side of the skull, and do 2 double crochets into the kind of side right hand corner piece of the skull into one of those stitches. Again, this isn't going to be super exact because I did have to figure it out by myself, and I'm not 100% sure that every single skull is going to come out exactly the same. Again, another chain 1, and you're going to again find that middling bit in the skull top, just like you did with the teeth, because it's not going to be exactly in the center, so I counted out and just kind of sussed out where it would be the most centerpiece rather than having count the stitches, because this is kind of a fiddly bit. Crochet 3 into there, making a pillar, chain 1, and then slip stitch into the top of your first chain 3 of the skull left hand corner. And that completes your first row of your granny square. You're going to slip stitch 2 times into the center part of that corner piece. So I've slip stitched, done 2 slip stitches, and now I'm going to chain 3 into that middle hole there. So now we're into the space where the corner was left, and I'm going to continue on with my regular granny square pattern. This is going to be a 3 pillar now, a 3 stitch pillar into the corner piece and chaining 2 making that hole. I'm going a little quickly here, but I'll show you now. It's 3 stitches, 2 chains, and 3 stitches into that same hole space. From here on out, it's just a normal granny square pattern. You're going to do your 3 double crochets into each space left by the pillars you made in the first row without chaining anything. Just continue right on making the 3 double crochets into these spaces. If you are from the UK or Ireland, you call these treble crochets, but for my American trained brain, I learned how to crochet in the US, so for me, it's a double crochet. As you can tell, this video is made for people who know how to crochet already in mind. If you do not know how to crochet and you were hoping this would be a tutorial on how to crochet, I do apologize, but I can make one of those videos if you guys are looking for a little bit of extra help in how to start the basics with crochet. But if you bought the skull pattern from Cutie Crochet and you made that with ease, you should be able to follow this pretty easily and pretty quickly. But if you guys do want a how-to video or kind of a simple crochet tutorial, please let me know down in the comments. I'd be more than happy to make one. But until then, you can just continue with your normal granny square pattern. It's 3 double crochets into the hole spaces, no chaining, and moving forward. And in those corner spaces that have the bigger space because of the chains in the corners, you're going to put 3 double crochets, 2 chains, and then 3 double crochets, making that corner space. I'm going to do it here. So I chain in, I have a moment, excuse me. I go in and I do a double crochet, 1, 2, and 3, and then I chain 2, 1, 2, and then right into that same space, 3 more double crochets to make that corner. From here on out, I will speed up this camera work. I know that I'm going kind of fast, but I'm going to go ahead and speed it up, and then all you have to do is make 1 more row after this. So it's a 3 round granny square outside of the skull is what I did. You can make it bigger or smaller if you are looking to adjust your sizing, but from here on out, I will speed it up so this way you can see how it goes a little bit quicker. Now, when I got to the end of the second round or the second row, whatever you want to call it, I slip stitch back into the top of my chain 3 space and I slip it through, and then I chain or I slip stitch 1 stitch, and then I slip stitch back into that center space for the corner. It just makes things a little bit more easy and a little bit more streamlined. I then go on and very, very quickly, just kidding, this is sped up a million times, go around 1 more time with that very normal, very standard granny square stitch. 3 stitches, chain 2, 3 stitches, and then 3 stitches or 3 double stitches into each one of the spaces you've just created in your last row. That's going to give you 3 rounds around this skull, and you'll be able to sew them together, block them, and flatten them out, and that'll give you a nice big flat happy granny square skull top to make into pants. I'm going to go ahead and skip and show you how it ends because I assume that you guys can go ahead and pretty much follow this without looking at my hands go a million miles an hour like some sort of bewitched Disney movie. This is wild to even watch while I'm editing. Anyway, enjoy that, and I will meet you at the end of the square.
All right, good job editing, Hannah. Now that we all know how to make the square. So after this, I've been crocheting long enough to kind of suss out the rest of it. If you're a beginning crocheter, I would just kind of Google it, ask the internet, but just save you that time. This is what I did. So I took the skull, I made the crocheted granny square around it as we just saw, and then you have to soak the squares and then you have to block them. This is a really important part for like finished garments and that kind of thing because it makes them that much more professional and it relaxes the fibers and it brings it to its kind of final size. Now, as long as you take care of this garment in a way that the yarn dictates or the way that the creator dictates, it should last you for a very long time. So I soaked the granny squares and I blocked them. Block and delete. And then I just kind of had to look at the pants in the picture. When I have a reference photo, this is so much easier. So whenever you ask guys for commissions or people or any artists for commissions, reference photos are super important so that they know what you're thinking about. Same thing with like a tattoo artist or a painter. The reference photos really, really help. Just as an update as well, I created a Google form that you can go to and submit your own commission requests as well, or just ask for a price. You can fill it out, add reference photos, send it off to me with your email, and I'll email you back a rough price estimate and tell you what to expect from there. So after I blocked the squares, I had to put them into the pants shape. Now my head doesn't always think in 3 dimensions. I don't know if anybody else is like this, but I have to like draw it out and map it out and test it, even though it was right in front of me in the picture. So what happened was there was 6 panels or 6 squares down the front of the leg, the side of the leg, and the back of the leg, making 2 tubes. But quite literally, butts. We have butts. And so we had On the inside of the thigh, I had to make it shorter so that this way when you step in, the sides and the front and the back of the legs go over the butt rather than just ending at the hip or the groin level. It makes a kind of a cup thing. Anyway, I did that, and then when I tried them on, just as a reminder, if you ever get something from me, I'm probably putting it on trying to figure out if it will actually work. But don't worry, I always have a protective layer of either pants or an undershirt underneath, so none of your clothing is ever touching my skin. So I put them on, and I realized that it was still very low rise, that it would still kind of hit right below the hips, and I know that that's not my friend's style who asked me for this commission in the first place. So I created a pretty high waistband, and how I did this was I made a chain of however long I wanted the waistband to be, and just knowing her as a person and having seen her in real life, I kind of estimated we're about the same height. So I put them onto myself, and I saw where the waistband would have hit, and I thought that's perfect for her style and for what she normally wears. So I made the chain of however many that would be, let's say it's 10, and then I crochet back and forth just as the typewriter was in like a scarf formation. The only caveat is that I did back loop only single crochet. That means you're only looping through the back loop, so this way it makes those kind of defined ridges that make it extra stretchy. Whenever I'm making waistbands, wristbands, or turtlenecks, I always do this because it just makes it a little bit stretchier, gives it a little bit more give, and the human body is stretchy and mushy in so many ways, right? Some days we're bigger, some days we're smaller, and especially with pants, you have to pull it over your butt onto your waist. So going from a larger area to a smaller area, we want that to be as stretchy as possible. So the back loop only single crochet allows it to be structured and straight up and down while still having a lot of give and elastic in the seam. Now, just for some added security, because these things fade over time, yarn loses its give, it stretches out a little bit, I made a white band around as well, so this way she can tie it together, just a drawstring. And this is the final product. I really love the way these turned out. Crocheted pants always kind of remind me of sweatpants and cargo pants mixed together because of the granny square element, because the leg is a very straight leg and it's kind of baggy, and it does give the kind of throwback to like 90s and early 2000s cargo pants, which were just so cool, and they've got these big chunky pockets and there's loads of squares all over them, and it reminds me of those. But then it's also super soft and stretchy and comfortable and easy to just throw on over some like black shorts or whatever you got going on. And it's so much like sweatpants, especially with the drawstring. It's not as structured as a cargo pant would be. These things are so cool, and I'm probably going to make myself another pair at some point. Maybe not with skulls, but maybe with sunflowers or with apples and pumpkins and that kind of thing, because I'm a basic bitch. And I just thought they were so cool. So thank you for joining me. Apologies, this is a super short video, and it wasn't too in-depth, and it's not history-based, but I just wanted to give you guys a little something creative to bring us into Hannoween. The narcissism level is so high. Hannoween is what I'm going to be preparing for October and what I'm working on right now. I'm so excited. So for those of you that don't know, Halloween and the basis of today's modern Halloween and all of the traditions we see heavily come from Ireland and an ancient Irish holiday called Samhain. I know it's not spelled Samhain, it's spelled Samhain, and it took me a minute. I actually heard the word Samhain before I saw the word Samhain, so when I finally saw the word Samhain, I was like, I don't think that's it. I don't think that's how it's spelled. But it is. So Halloween actually pulls from a few different places. One, of course, is the modern day America and the 20th century America. So things like candy and certain aspects of the Halloween tradition today come from costume stores, candy manufacturers, Halloween movies, horror movies, that kind of thing. And then, of course, we have things like Frankenstein's monster and Dracula and mermaids and all of this fun stuff that costumes go into. But the actual ancient form of Halloween and the ancient holiday that it's based around, all of the traditional aspects of Halloween come from this holiday called Samhain. And so Halloween is a very special time of year for Ireland, even though you wouldn't necessarily think it. Ireland's main holiday that people think of now, of course, is St. Patrick's Day. And if you take a look at it, St. Patrick was originally from Wales and spread Christianity throughout Ireland. That is the kind of widely accepted story. And although it is very Irish in its basis and its meaning to the people of Ireland, and Ireland is the origin for the story of St. Patrick and what he's done and the miracles he's, produced and all that fun stuff, the holiday of Halloween is actually an ancient Irish holiday. And in my opinion, bases itself more in Irish tradition and Irish folklore than St. Patrick's Day would. And so in October, I'm going to be releasing 2 YouTube videos, and most of my content on my Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube Shorts are going to be about stories and Halloween traditions that came from Samhain. So that's going to be all of October. I am so excited, and I'm only calling it Hannoween, so this way we have kind of like a kitschy name for it, like a hashtag to pop into it, and so that I hope to do it every year if I can continue to make YouTube videos and make this content. So I'm very excited about Hannoween. Thank you for watching to the end. I know this is probably silly and quick and not at all what you're used to if you're used to hearing me chatter on about history, but this is the other side of my channel. I've got 2 playlists called Hannah's Histories and 1 playlist called Hannah's Hobbies, which is just this stuff. Both YouTube videos in the month of October should be Hannah's Histories because they are both Samhain related. Bye guys. Oh, wait, sorry, bad YouTuber. Like and subscribe or I'll find you in your family home and stalk you until you like and subscribe to my channel. Okay, that's better. I'm glad we talked about it. Bye.